Good afternoon, folks. Sorry, a little bit delayed there. Let me just fix some bits and pieces. Oh, my music is quite loud in my head, so I'm just going to turn that down just a smidge. Now, thank you for joining me today. I hope we're all well. Okay. Okay, photo style. Have it your way. Apparently, I have to start this introduction with a Film Noir voice. Originally put this in for Facebook Max Payne. Left it in there, thought it might be a bit of fun, and then suddenly out of nowhere, this is what he does. Should we stick the we'll stick the Film Noir music on as well. We were going fantasy, and now we gotta change it up a little bit. Let's do the introduction like this, and then we'll get onto the other stuff in a normal kind of way. So, thank you very much for joining my geeky lunchtime chat on a Monday lunchtime. What are we going to talk about today? Well, the main thing we're going to be talking about in a little bit is we're going to be talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, I'd like to say from the get-go, this will be completely spoiler-free. So if you've not played it yet, if you're thinking of playing it, if you're already playing it, no spoilers here, because that sucks. Let's not do that. So there's a warning already out there, but I'm just saying this quite clearly for you. No spoilers. So none from me, none from you. Capiche? Right. Other updates. Let's keep these short and sweet. So, short thoughts. Oh, that's hard to say. Short thoughts. My bite-sized interview show, that is coming back this month. Not set in stone. Let me be very clear on that. But looks like that's going to be 22nd of November. That's going to be coming back, and it should be an absolutely awesome episode to kick us off on that one. Now, I'm so tempted, so tempted to say who that's going to be. But as I haven't actually recorded it yet, that's happening on Wednesday. And I don't want to jinx it by announcing it early. You know, until I've done that interview, until it's recorded, until I've got it saved down on my hard drive, I'm not going to take anything for granted that that's happening. But this time next week, I'll let you know who that's going to be. But it's going to be a good episode. Should be, I hope. Touch wood. Otherwise, I've got 4 other episodes already recorded, 2 of which are completely edited, so we're in a good place. So, short thoughts coming back 22nd of November. And like I said, watch this space next week, this time slot. I'll tell you who that's going to be. Touch. Right, let's drop back. Let's drop back and let's put the fantasy music back on, because I feel it is important to have fantasy music on while we talk Dragon Age. So let's shut that on. There we go. Thank you for that photo start. Thank you. Okie doke. So we're talking Dragon Age. So this is a game that has, I've heard 10 years being thrown around this one. I've not done the maths on this one. But yeah, I think it has been about 10 years since Dragon Age Inquisition. And I've played all the Dragon Age games so far. So I played Dragon Age Origins, I played Dragon Age 2, which is still weird why they call it Dragon Age 2 and not Dragon Age and then some subtitle, but there we go. Dragon Age Inquisition, and now Dragon Age the Veilguard. I'm not a huge way into it, because understandably so. I mean, I'm busy at the best of times, but also I'm being really strict on myself that I get a bit of short thoughts editing done each night before I play any Dragon Age. Otherwise, short thoughts will just go out the window while I play this game. So I'm not as far in as I would like, but I'm enjoying it. And for those just joining, again, I'm going to clarify to say no spoilers in anything we're discussing here. I'm just talking about kind of what I like, what's obviously different, anything that I think you should be aware of, but no spoilers. So we're not going to talk about the plot in any real way. So let's start at the top of this one. Character creation. Now, this is something that I think a lot of people have been talking about. It has become something of a joke at this stage I mean, essentially any CRPG, you know, someone starts a new game and then they spend 9 hours in character creation. You know, I know of people who created, you know, made 3 or 4 characters already, and they're still deciding which one they're actually going to play in the game. It was the same with tabs, it was the same with dirges, and we're here again. No, but the character creation is really nice. It's got everything you would expect in terms of choosing your character's species, choosing a class. Now, for those who come from Baldur's Gate and D&D, not much of the way in choice of classes here. Essentially, you're either a fighter or a rogue or a mage. But you do get a lot to play around within those confines. We'll say obvious stuff on this one. Well, no, maybe not obvious. I mean, let's talk about it. So it is wonderfully inclusive in terms of all sorts of bits and pieces. It's inclusive in regards to things like pronouns and gender, body choices, voices, you know, none of that is sort of tethered together as you would have historically seen. Go back 10 years. In fact, go back to the previous Dragon Age, I'm pretty sure. You know, if you chose a female Inquisitor, you had a female voice, and it was all tied together. You know, we moved away from that. So you can kind of mix and match to either match your own identity or match the identity you're creating for your character. And I'm aware that there is a lot of stuff in the game. Actually, I say a lot of stuff. No, I don't know that that's actually true. I'm aware that there is stuff in the game, because I've seen one bit of it already, where, for example, if your character is transgender, you can establish that in the game, and it will set various things throughout the game with regards to, you know, how characters address you, etc., etc. I know you can have things like top surgery scars and stuff like that. So you get an awful lot of options available to you, and I think that's great. No, I absolutely think that's great. I mean, I don't like to swear in these lunch chats, but let's just say from the get-go on this one, you know, seriously, those people out there who are review bombing this game for being woke, fuck those guys. Seriously. Dragon Age games have always been inclusive. They really have. This is not new. You know, there have been, you know, queer romances. There have been transgender characters. You know, this is not a new thing in Dragon Age. It's not a new thing in games at all. They're just giving you more options here, and the ability to have the game not assume things, which is great. You know, and the fact is, you know, I cannot believe I have to say this. In fact, I don't think I have to say this to this room, but this is going on the internet. This is going to be tagged with Dragon Age, so it is entirely possible that people will end up watching this who are, you know, outside of my normal audience. So let's just be really clear on this one. All these options are wonderful for people who want to use them, but nothing in there is forcing anyone to choose something that they don't want to choose. It's as simple as that. So for the people who appreciate it, it's brilliant. You know, at least my assumption is it is. I mean, certainly that's the response I'm seeing out there, you know. So it's giving the options to people who want to be able to represent a character that is like them or is like something they want to explore. And it's giving them that freedom and the game to respect the choices they are making. For the people who don't want to use them, don't use them. It's as simple as that, you know. And it is deeply frustrating that this is getting, you know, press in a bad way. You know, I'm literally seeing articles out there, news articles out there, and so many articles are clickbait, and that's another rant. But I'm seeing articles out there from news sites, and I use air quotes on that one. You know, talking about how it's being slated as being terrible and stuff like that. No, it's not. People are playing it, are freaking loving it, and I'm loving it. You know, and the fact that it's got, you know, options out there, you know, for gender fluidity, transgender characters, you know, like I said, separating choice of pronouns from body type and stuff like that, you know, that's just adding more freedom to the game for the people who want to use it, but it's not forcing people do it. You know, it's a similar argument to absolute morons out there who want to get rid of like gay marriage and stuff like that. You know, it's like, if you don't like gay marriage, don't have a gay marriage. No one's forcing you to do it. But the people who want to, it's brilliant. So I love how inclusive this is. I love the fact they've got the options, and I like the fact that not only they got the options at character creation, but I like the fact that those, like I said, I've seen one of them so far. A dialogue. It's not even a dialogue. It's kind of a an internal. This isn't a spoiler. The scene I've seen this in is a kind of a scene where your character's taking stock, and you've got almost a chance to talk to yourself in a kind of a meditation style thing, where you can establish, you know, certain things about your backstory, and that can include things like, you know, whether you're playing a transgender character. You know, I like the fact they've got that stuff in there because it's great that you can choose it cosmetically. It's even better that the game will respect those choices. And this is worth saying. The fact that you've got 3 choices of pronoun, you can play a character who is he, him, she, her, or they, them. That is not a small thing. You know, given the fact that every line of dialogue in this game is voiced. You know, not that every single line of dialogue in the game includes a reference to your character's pronouns, but hell, a lot of them do. Them making a choice to include they, them, that is not a small thing. That must have cost them, I think it's reasonably to you know, millions of dollars in terms of costs. So it is not a small choice, and it's brilliant that it's there. So that's awesome. So moving away from controversy, I like what they've done with the character creator. I mean, obviously it looks brilliant. It absolutely does. You know, I'm playing this on my PS5. It looks fantastic. And I kind of would expect that it would. Yeah, I'd be disappointed if it didn't look great. One of the things I like they've done is there's always an issue with, or a potential issue with, character creation in a game like this, because it's the 900 sliders thing. You know, you've got a lot of games nowadays will have default faces that you can choose from, like there might be 10 default faces, and then you either stick with them or you can modify them, or in theory you could start from scratch and toggle with all the various sliders, so like how big you want their nose to be, you know, where you want their eyes, and I said eyes and clearly pointed at my ears, you know what I mean, yeah, how far apart you want your eyes, how up and down you want your ears and stuff like that. You know, you got all these sliders, and it is a rabbit hole, it really is. Hang on, am I going to have to answer the door? I may have to answer the door, give me 1 second, sorry about that. Oh. Small rant on this one. I have a lot of delivery people. If they can't deliver it to me directly and put it in my hands, they seem to make a mistake about which house is mine, or ours rather. You know, despite that there's a clear kind of division on the driveway, they go and put it like by my next door neighbour's bins and stuff like that, which is really frustrating. Hi, Mohammed 365. Hope you are well. Thank you for joining me today. We're mainly talking about Dragon Age today in a non-spoiler way. So we're talking about character creation. I'm sorry, I'm just getting my breath back on that one. I ran down the stairs foolishly because I'm an idiot. What was I saying? Yeah. So I like the fact that there is like a third way to the 900 sliders dilemma, which is you can, when choosing your face in the game, rather than choosing a default and then modifying it, what you can actually do is you can choose 3 different faces. Like, let's say I'm going to choose an obvious example here. Maybe one that is, you know, very slender, one that is slightly larger, and one that is kind of, you know, more muscular or something like that. So, you know, maybe muscular face doesn't quite work. Maybe, you know, sterner, cuddlier, and thin. Let's go with that, you know. And then using a triangle, you can kind of choose to merge between those features. I've seen that kind of thing before, and they've actually got it in this game for body as well. You know, whether you can go thin, fat, and muscular. And you can kind of choose the balance between those aspects. You can do the same with faces. So you choose 3 faces from a pre-gen list and can merge between them, which is a nice way of finding a happy middle ground between 2 things you like, rather than having to toggle all the endless sliders. So that's brilliant. I really like that. Gives you more flexibility, and you can get you into the game quicker if you want to. I think there's 4 voices for your character. 2 kind of more masculine, 2 more feminine. And there is at least 2 options for pitch shifting them as well. My character, my rook, sorry, is my music a little loud? I don't know. My rook's character, I'm using Erika Ishii's voice, and I've actually used the lower pitched version of it for my dwarf character, and it's great. I don't know if it's just the 2 options, that like normal and lower, that they've got in there, and I assume it is pitch shifted. Can't imagine they recorded everything twice. I think it is just pitch shifted a little bit, but it's nice. It's nice to have that variety in there. So, and all the voice acting I've heard so far is excellent. I mean, that is kind of to be expected for a high quality game like this, but let's never ever take it for granted. The voice acting is marvelous. It really is. And I say voice acting as well, and tied in with that is the physical performance. I assume there was a shed load of motion capture and performance capture in this one. So I say voice acting. I expect a lot of this is fully acted as well. I don't know how true that is for Rook. I don't know whether each actor doing the voices also did performance capture, or if it was a standard performance capture performance that they then all voiced and then the lip sync matches. I don't know. I would like to know though, because that would be interesting. So yeah, very impressed with character creation. I do want to dive in and create more characters, but I know if I do that, I'm not going to actually get to play the damn game. So there we go. But no, I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoying that. Let's talk a bit about combat. So combat is an odd one on this. People have played. I'm going to take a swig of drink here before going on to talk about this. For people who have played previous Dragon Age games, you'll be very aware of the fact that combat has changed a lot over the duration of those games. For the first game, it was, a bit more like, what's the best? Knights of the Old Republic is probably a good comparison to that one. In that you were playing your characters, you could choose various actions for them. It wasn't turn-based, but it almost had a slightly turn-based feel. It was slower, I think, in terms of the pace of that one. And I think you could do a top-down view as well. But it was quite grounded as well. The second game went more high fantasy with it, so it was similar, but there was a lot more extravagant high fantasy moves. And the classic example of that one is like rogues could do giant leaps across the battlefield. They are impossible. I've done a lot of air quotes in this one. I don't know why I'm going a little air quote happy, but I'll just sit on my hats for the rest of this. So there were more fantastic high fantasy moves in that one. But still relatively tactical. Dragon Age Inquisition with top-down stuff as well. And again, it's a similar sort of feel. It was in terms of the high versus low fantasy, I think it was somewhere in between, but it still had quite a number of tactical elements on this one. This one, I think they've moved away from the tactical combat quite a bit. You can still, I'm playing it on a PS5. I don't know what it's like on PC. You can still pull up a radial wheel for actions that will pause the combat, which is great. But the combat itself feels a bit more like, it's very Mass Effect-y right now. It's also probably similar to games like Elden Ring and stuff like that, in that it's the combat feels like a third-person action game now. So there's less of that tactical combat type thing. I think it makes sense. I think, like I said, Mass Effect made that choice. The first game was very slow in the combat, whereas in 2 and into 3 it became way more like a third-person shooter, which was good. We've got a similar sort of feel here with this new Dragon Age. And I like it. I'm enjoying it. It's a hell of a lot of fun, the combat. It's not feeling overwhelming, which is good. I don't think this is a spoiler to say, but I'll tell you what I quite like about it. My character is a fighter. I can't remember if they're called fighters or warriors, but they're a fighter. And their default ranged attack is throwing their shield in a Captain America style way, and I am loving that. It is so much fun. So the combat is, it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, and and they've done a nice job. It's similar to Dragon Age Inquisition, with how you access your quick abilities and stuff like that, which it's feeling quite intuitive, which is good. There's always a risk that it doesn't feel that way when you've got lots and lots of abilities that actually. Sometimes some games were designed for PC, they then ported them to console, and it's kind of a fudge to try and make it work. Like I've seen people playing Baldur's Gate 3 on console, and the radio wheels look really overwhelming to me. That feels like you took a game that was designed for the PC and you ported it over, and that was the best option you could do. I could be wrong in that respect, Maybe it's incredibly intuitive. It just looks a bit much to me, but this is more streamlined. And I think mentioning Baldur's Gate there, I have to wonder. I mean, obviously, Dragon Age the Veilguard was in development for a very, very long time, but I have to wonder if they got wind of the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 was going to go fully turn-based tactical combat, and they decided to go in the opposite direction. I don't know. That's just a guess in this one, but I think. If it was still very tactical combat-y, there would be an immediate comparison to Baldur's Gate 3 and saying Baldur's Gate 3 did it better. So I think the fact they've gone more into third-person action and embraced that even more, I think that's a good thing. That's my opinion on that one. But I'm enjoying it. And it's worth mentioning as well, this one, inventory management. That's very streamlined compared to previous games. You don't have a huge amount of slots on this one, and you're not bombarded with loads and loads and loads of weapons, which I think is good. I know some people have complained about the fact you don't have, separate things for, you've got your main body, you've got your casual clothes, you've got a helmet. In my case, I've got a shield, and I've got a single-handed weapon and a two-handed weapon, and then a couple of accessories. But that's about it. It's not feeling too minimal for me. I was kind of obvious to me, like, oh, that's less than I expected. But at no stage have I gone, it feels too simple for me. So I'm liking that. We'll see if I maintain that opinion as I play more of the game, but I'm liking that. It's good. What else? It's very cinematic. That leapt out to me immediately. The cutscenes themselves almost have a cinematic filter on them, and it may well be that, because I did see some settings somewhere in the visuals to do with, I think it was a depth of field thing. I think there were a couple of settings in there. So maybe that you can turn those off. But the cutscenes themselves have it's not a soft focus, but there is something that gives it a slightly softer look. And it does feel more cinematic somehow in the lighting. It looks good. It looks really good. But it almost... The closest comparison I can give, and I don't think it's a fair one, but it's the closest comparison I can leap to on this one, is... Sorry, I've got a really itchy nose today and it's bugging me. The closest comparison I think of, do you remember old school games where you clearly had cinematics that were pre-rendered and saved as video files, and then you had the action in the game, and sometimes it's almost half cutscenes that were generated in-game, and you leapt from really, really pretty stuff that was pre-generated to generated real-time stuff that always looked a little bit wonky. That it almost has that feel. None of it looks bad. None of it looks bad at all. But again, there's that slight bit of, not gloss, but the cutscenes just have a little bit more something. And I need to figure out exactly what it is, because it is 100% being generated, real time. Of course it is. It includes your Rook character and stuff like that. So of course it's being generated, in the moment. But I'm curious what that is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it looks great. It looks brilliant. And as I said, voice acting, top notch. Really enjoying all of that. The only other thing related to it being sort of cinematic is... Now, I am not a long way into this game. I will stress that again. It feels less open world at this stage. Now, maybe it will open up more later. And if that's the approach they've taken, where they slowly open the doors, I think that's quite a good one. But the bit that leaps out at me that feels a little bit different in that. So I'm in a slightly more railroady early bit of it, and that's fine. That's fine. and I don't hate this, but it was something that I noted that a lot of times in games, yeah, even railroad games, you get to the end of a section and it immediately follows on into the next bit. So you have to walk to the next area unless you're fast traveling or something like that. Whereas they've gone for a more cinematic approach here. Like you'll get to the end of a section and then it'll fade to black and you'll now appear in the next part of it. And you'll get actually like a scene title card. The sort of thing you might see in a lot of movies, you know, when they've got to jump between different locations. Like the one I'm leading to here, and it's far from the only example, but for example, if you watch Avengers Infinity War, it jumps to, you know, Wakanda and shows the text, you know, or Scotland, shows the Scotland, outer space, you know. So it's got that kind of framing, and it's done in a very cinematic way, and I quite like it. And like I said, it jumped out to me a little bit as, oh, this is a bit different. But I'm not hating it at all. It's quite nice, and like I said, it gives it that more kind of cinematic polish, cinematic feel. So yeah, that's good. I'm liking that. What else? Companions are interesting so far. I've not encountered that many, which I think is good. There is always a risk in CRPGs that they throw a lot of characters at you early on, which means, one, you don't get to know them as much, and secondly, it's harder to make an informed choice about whether you like them or not, because you very quickly have to go, I need a rogue, so I'm taking them. I need a mage, and that's my only mage, so I'm taking them. That is a risk in CRPGs, but actually if they slowly drip feed you characters, it means you get to play around with the character, you get to know their personality, you get to figure out what they're like in combat, and then when you do get the option of another person, you can then make an informed decision of, actually, I think party balance wise, I think I probably want that person over that person, or that person's now starting to grate on me a little bit, or I really like them and I'm going to use that to inform my decision. So I like the fact that they're slowly bringing in characters, which is good, but I'm enjoying them. I think, again, the acting is very strong. I think they've embraced the Dragon Age 2-ish notion, I think, of very distinctive high fantasy designs for them, of the ones I've seen so far. There are, not spoilers, there are some recurring characters whose designs have not really changed, though there is one that has, which was interesting. But most of them have a very distinctive look, which I think is good. I think one fault of Dragon Age Origins, and this will be time, money, development, all of this stuff, you know. If you look at Dragon Age Origins, it almost feels like all of the companions could have been generated as player characters. Like, if you chose the right sliders, you get a character that looked like that. You know, they moved away from that in Dragon Age 2, whereas everyone had a very distinctive look, and some of them were quite over the top. They've kept that, but it's not jarring. It's good. I like the fact that they look unique, which is, you know, great for picking them out. It adds a richness to them. You know, they shouldn't be generic, especially if you don't have a huge number of characters. You know, I've talked about this before. If you play Baldur's Gate 1, there's something like 20 different joinable characters because they didn't have that much personality. You know, so it was okay that they were relatively generic other than their voices. Whereas now you only have like 6, 7 people, you know, to choose from. Therefore, each of them needs to be unique and rich and exciting. And we're getting that. We're getting that, which is great. The only thing I'll say about the plot, and this is not a spoiler, I'm enjoying it so far, which is good. But it's interesting that this is the first Dragon Age, which is, I think, a direct sequel. You know, Dragon Age 2 was set in the same world as Dragon Age Origins, but it didn't really continue the characters. There were some returning characters, but it wasn't a direct sequel to the plot. Dragon Age Inquisition, similar thing again. You know, there were some returning characters, which was great, but it wasn't really a direct sequel to the plot of Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age the Veilguard, I'd say, is a direct sequel to Dragon Age Inquisition. You don't quite pick up where you left off, but it's of that feel. And I was always curious how that was going to work, because Dragon Age Inquisition kind of left on a bit of a cliffhanger, really, with the Dread Wolf stuff. And I was curious to know how they would do that. You know, how do you go into this game picking that thread up without it becoming immediately... how do you not jump straight to the end? You know, and how would that work? And it's not gone the direction I thought it would go, but I'm very much enjoying it. And I'm curious to see more and more of it, because I am very early days. But I like it. I really do. Other stuff, you can pet cats. I assume you can pet dogs as well, but I've encountered many a cat that I've been able to pet in the game, which is great. More of that, please. But there we go. I undoubtedly have more to talk about, and as I play more of the game, I will probably return to talk more about it later on. I am probably, once I've played a significant chunk of it or completed it, I will probably do a spoilery review of this. But I mean, overall impressions of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. It's a lot of fun. It feels very polished, and it's interesting. I saw someone mention this the other day, and definitely not something to take for granted. It is the first game of this kind I've played ever, or certainly in recent memory, that there was no day one patch. You know, it was very polished to begin with. I'm not saying there won't be a patch coming up at some point. Of course there will. But you know, so many games like this have a day one patch just to fix the things that the issues they found after it was essentially sent to print, as it were. You know, maybe because, you know, everything's digital nowadays, but that's not a small thing. It's really not a small thing, and it says a hell of a lot about the polish of the game, which is great. Characters enjoyable, plot's enjoyable. It is absurdly pretty. So I'm having a whale of a time. The absolute killer right now is I have to be an adult with a day job and you know, a family, and edit an interview show that I've committed to, because I want to play more of it. I really want to play more of it, and I can't just sacrifice sleep for playing more of it. But it's marvelous. So I would strongly recommend checking it out. Just obviously be aware of people spoiling it. I've seen a lot of reports of people doing it, which sucks. Particularly, you know, I know Cypher of Tears had to do an awful lot of stuff in terms of muted words and timeout warnings of people saying stuff. Well, you know, that's rubbish. And the whole controversy about the woke stuff is absurd. They've done a really good job so far. I've not seen anything shoehorned. It's all been done very respectfully, and it's giving the freedom and choices to people who want those freedom and choices, but in no way is it chucking stuff in your face. So I'm very impressed on all fronts with what they've done with this game, and I just want to play more of it. That's kind of it, really. So I think we'll leave it there. There were other bits and pieces I wanted to talk about on other topics today, but I'm okay just doing a dedicated Dragon Age Veilguard stream today. So let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Whether you're here on Twitch or here on YouTube, because we are carrying on doing parallel, simultaneous streaming on both platforms. So thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate it. It would be wonderful if you could follow me in both those places. In the grand scheme of things, I'm still a relatively small streamer. I have like 109 followers on Twitch and like 115 on YouTube. You know, it takes a long time to build up a community, to build up an audience, and to expand that circle. So please, please, please follow me here. You know, it's free. Please follow me here on Twitch and on YouTube. Please, you know, when I say that I'm going live, please retweet, repost it. It helps a lot. It really does. As I slowly build up my audience and build up what I'm doing here. So thank you so much for that. If you want to follow me on socials, the places you can find me are Blue Sky, where I am at dcbradshaw.com, and Threads, where I'm at dcbradshaw. I have since abandoned Twitter because it's become a bin fire. So while my account is still there, I'm no longer tweeting there. And if you want to follow me in a kind of monthly capacity to pay for things like subscriptions that I use for editing short thoughts and the like, you can do that. I have a Ko-Fi. The link's popped up just at that time, so thank you very much, Ko-Fi Streambot. But it's ko-fi.com/DCBradshawRPG. I'll also chuck a link in for short thoughts. Please take a look at that. I'll say new episodes coming on November the 22nd. So it doesn't really make sense to say catch up, but please take a look, enjoy them, and if you've already watched them or if you watch them again, like them, please. Stick a comment on the bits about them you like. It really does help. The stupid algorithms of YouTube and all this stuff, it really does help. So please, if you've even remotely enjoyed my stuff, follow, comment. I hate having to say all this stuff, but it's the way you feed the algorithm and get this content shown to other people. So it does help. Thank you. I think that is about it. We're next back. Lunch chat with games is normally Wednesdays. I think it's going to be Thursday this week, just because my diary is looking a little bit, a little busy either side of lunch on Wednesday. So I can easily see a situation where something overruns or I have to stop early. So rather than doing that, I think we'll just bump Geeky Lunch Chat with Games onto Thursday instead of Wednesday. I can't imagine we're going to have any gaming streams right now because, as I say, my evenings are editing and Dragon Age. Geeky gaming streams will resume at some point, but I have to carry on doing the stuff I need to be doing with short thoughts editing. But they shall return. So I think we're going to do, for the Twitch viewers here, I think we're going to raid into Tiggy. I think YouTube people, you kind of get left behind. Sorry about that, but it is the way it works, alas. So let me just figure that out because it just needs more buttons and stuff I have to do. So I'm going to stop the music and I'm going to wish you a fond farewell. And then in a moment, all of us on Twitch are going to hop over to Tig's stream. Let me just tee that up. Which I should have loaded up in advance, but I didn't. But we'll hop over in just a second. So I think it's an absolute delight. I hope you enjoy their stream, and I will see you all hopefully on Thursday. All right, take care. Speak soon. Bye.